example, and then treating the symptoms. So it's a different concept towards health. So that inspired me over the years to become a public speaker. I've spoken at several venues and several churches in Westchester, and it's something I love to do. But I realized in order to get the message out there, there's only one of me. I have to be able to get my word out there, and I have to be able to get my work out there. So that's what inspired me to write Self Care Advocate: 7 Steps to Prevent Chronic Disease.
Yes, sir, brother. That's, I asked the same question online one day, you know, um, and I put it to the pastors, if and I'm not trying to be religious. I'm just trying to just ask a question. If God came to give us life of abundance, why are we continuing to be sick? Why, when you look at reports, there was a report that was out that black men that attended church, you know, had more chronic diseases than black men that didn't attend church. And then when you go to a funeral, they feed you the same food that the person that died was eating, right? So we have to look at how our culture, right, in the African American communities, um, how it relates to food.
Yes, sir.
Even from the pulpit.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's key, and that's something that has to be. We really have to have conversations with a lot of pastors, especially in black communities, on our relationship to food and how that relationship is to the scriptures.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to keep that. Now we've talked a couple of times, brother, and um, I'm going to repeat some questions because we have a whole different group of listeners.
Hmm.
But I want to start it off very simple. The importance of drinking water. Like a lot of people don't understand how important it is to drink water. Talk about that.
Yes, sir. So, first and foremost, when we talk about drinking water, I like to ask people a simple question. If you went your entire life and you did not drink any soda, how would you feel? How would your health be impacted? It would actually be better, right?
Mm.
If you went your entire life and you didn't drink juice, or tea or coffee, you know, you you would actually live a very long life, right? You wouldn't have any issues. However, how long do you suppose that you can go without drinking water? And I think that's the question that we need to have as a community, as a people, and that is to say, you know, um, your body is 65% water and your blood is 95% water, right? So there is a hint in creation,
Right.
right? That is a hint that
Right.
is telling you something
Right.
about how to maintain this system we call the body. In fact, there are so many hints that the body gives you of its need for water. We see, for example, that when your body needs more water, you get signs, right? You get a sign of thirst, right? Your lips are drying and everything like that. And so thirst is a sign that you're deficient or dehydrated or you're becoming dehydrated. In fact, you look at something like urination, right? The color of your urine
That's
really
right.
indicates the amount of water that's in your body. So you have all these signs telling you that, hey, we're going to let you know, the body is going to do its best to let you know when you need more and more water. But unfortunately, and some people would say it's a good thing, but when it comes to the conversation of health, we do have to understand that living in America, we're very fortunate to have multiple options.
Right.
So
Right.
it's very easy to drink a beverage or a soda or a juice or something like that. And that is a good thing. Choice is a good thing. The unfortunate thing is this: if you were to close your eyes and walk into a grocery store aisle and reach out your hand for a random beverage, you look at the content or the amount of sugar that it has, you'd be astonished,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
They're packed full of sugar,
That's right.
and so now the challenge is we have people who are fulfilling their thirst symptoms by drinking everything but water,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Everything but water.
That's right.
We'll drink tea, we'll drink coffee, we'll drink soda, we'll drink milk, and not that those things are inherently detrimental. But you have to understand, your body only ever needs water. Now, if you can drink something
I'm going to
else,
hold you right there, brother. We got to pay the bills here. I'll go to commercial. And you're listening to Black Westchester Magazine, the Power Hour. We'll be back. No, I sent the second link I sent you. Click on that one. You see it?
yep, I see.
Yeah.
StreamYard, right?
Yep.
Okay. Should I start my camera?
Yeah. Just click StreamYard. Just click on the link and sign in like you would.
Okay, I see now.
All right, just turn your volume down. Turn your volume down on your phone. All right, let me get you in.
Thank you.
No, thank you, brother. So people can hear the commercials.
This is WVOX at 1460 Fort City Island, Echo Bay, and Worcester.
Yes. We're back. We're back. The Black Westchester Power Hour, 1460 AM, WVOX. And I have my brother, the self care advocate, Dr. Cedrick. I'm sorry, brother. Dr. Cedrick, and he will be at the Mount Vernon Public Library on July 8th at 11 a.m. That's a Saturday, y'all. So come on out and hear my brother. We're gonna have a great conversation there. Come get a copy of his book. But we're gonna continue, brother. So you have in your book, and you talk about the modern healthcare system,
Yes, sir.
and you also talk about that there's a need and should be, and many of us who practice holistic health understand that there's a self-care system.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to the listeners what is the difference?
Great question, Brother Damon. So, for those of you listening, thank you again for tuning in. What we have right now in America and in much of the developed world is typically called the conventional healthcare system or the conventional model of care. And so we just have to look at where we are and look at the statistics. And when we do look at statistics, here's what we find. In 2020 alone, the United States healthcare system spent about $4.1 trillion on healthcare. Okay, that's trillion with the T. Now, for all of this spending, what do we have to show for it? Well, we're sicker, we're heavier, we've gotten fatter and bigger, and we're more medicated, right? So when we look at these things, this thing we call chronic diseases, we find that 90% of healthcare costs are for chronic diseases. Okay, and so we're spending more money, but we're actually getting sicker, and more
That's right.
people are
That's right.
developing chronic conditions. And so I think one of the things we have to come to the realization is that the tool that we're using for the problem is not solving the problem. Now, I want to say this respectfully: we have some of the best doctors and smartest doctors and everything,
That's right.
but it's the tool that you give them.
Right.
right? The level of education they
Right.
have has nothing to do with it, or the amount of money you spend has nothing to do with it.
Right.
If you're not solving the problem or reducing the burden, the financial burden,
Exactly.
then you're not really solving the problem. So, for all of this spending, the 4.1 trillion, in fact, they actually estimate that by 2030, we're looking at spending $6 trillion a year just on healthcare alone. And
Right.
so chronic disease will continue to be the majority of that
Right.
causing a factor. And so when you look at that, you realize, golly, we still have about 30 plus million people that are uninsured. So
Right.
they're not even
Right.
in the system.
Right.
And so we have to start to look at the tool that we're using for the problem. And I think that the reason there's a mismatch, it's not able to bring this disease burden down, is because these are lifestyle diseases.
Right.
Okay. And so they depend on how we live and how we eat, right? And you're not just going to be able to change that by
Right.
giving people more medications. You're
Right.
going to have a system of care that addresses how people live and how people eat. And that's what I call the self-care model
Right.
of health, which is getting people to be involved and engaged in their own care.
Good. 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 Now, in that process, if someone was listening and they said, "Well, what are the steps?" If someone is just starting out, they go to the doctor. The doctor tells them, "Hey, listen, you're borderline diabetic. You got high blood pressure. You got high cholesterol, right, 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 and you're overweight, right? Because that's what happens. It takes us by shock when we go.
Yeah.
What is the steps, Doc? What is the steps for them to, if they, because we know the first thing that they're going to give, that they're going to say is, I'm going to prescribe you all these medications. So you got 4 to 5 stacks, right? Bottles of pills, right? And you never, this never happened to you before, right? You got 4 bottles of pills, on your kitchen counter, and you're looking at them, and you're like, man, it has to be another way,
Yeah.
right? So what do you recommend in your book? Things that they could do to turn that around, so they won't be ridden with taking medication for the rest of their life, because we know that's what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, and I love the analogy you gave, Brother Damon. In fact, um, what you just described affects 6 in 10 U.S. adults today. So 6 in 10 adults are living with a chronic condition, and 4 in 10 are living with multiple chronic conditions. So
Right.
they are taking multiple pills.
Right.
And unfortunately, what the disease management model of the conventional healthcare system does is they give you a pill for every condition.
Right.
And the challenge with that is, yes, they're great for symptomatic relief,
Right.
right? But here's the thing: if you have a yard in front of your house and you have weeds growing, and all you ever do is mow the weeds over, what do you see the next day? The
Right.
weeds have grown back, right?
Exactly.
And so you just keep mowing and you keep mowing, and they'll just keep growing and growing.
Exactly.
At a certain point, if you're tired of mowing the weeds but not actually solving the problem, at a certain point, you have to put on some gloves,
That's right.
dig down deep, and grab them by the root, uproot them. And that's the only way you're going to get rid of those weeds.
That's right.
And I think what we have to understand is that, this concept of for every disease, there's a pill or there's a drug. We're not going to get to the bottom of it. All right. And we
Right.
have to do what we call is adopt a holistic lifestyle. And so
Exactly.
quickly, I call this concept the self-care 7. And I
Okay.
talk about it in my book. So, and this works for 95+% of chronic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first step I would say is to reduce inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
The second step is practicing elimination. The
Mm-hmm.
third step is increasing hydration. The fourth step is to promote digestion, the gut. The fifth is to improve nutrition.
That's right.
The sixth is to perform exertion. That's challenging the body through physical exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And the seventh step is to allow for restoration. Now, what we propose in the book is to do it in a way that is gradual, that's sort of our secret sauce,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Because this will overwhelm people if they do it all at once.
We'll be right back with that. And I'm Damon K. Jones, publisher of Black Westchester Magazine. It's the Black Westchester Power Hour, and we will be right back.
Check this out, by the way.
Oh man, that's beautiful, brother. That
So
is beautiful.
instead of going through the book, oh, you have one right there.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah,
That's
instead of
beautiful.
going through the book, if you wanted to just see what it was, it's right there.
Yes, sir. You logged out. You got to log back in. Somehow you logged out, so I can get you back on. No, this is one. You logged back in,
With world and national news.
brother. You're still not in yet.
On 1460
Say,
WVOX.
yeah, try logging back in because you logged off the show.
It's, oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm looking at the camera.
And
I'm
you,
thinking I'm on, but I didn't actually. Okay.
okay, got you.
Got it.
Yeah, got you back. There you go. You good now, man.
Okay. Yeah. So I just figured this would be helpful.
No, this is great. We're gonna come back in 7 steps. We talked we talked about hydration.
Mhm.
We're gonna talk about elimination, and yeah, we got good time now.
Okay.
All right, yeah, we got good time.
So the next question is on elimination.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about elimination.
Yes, sir.
And now with the latest up-to-date forecast, here's Steve Pellettieri's hot weather on 1460 WVOX.
Forecast Westchester County, 70 for this Monday morning. Mostly cloudy skies. Patchy fog. There's some showers are possible as well, but a little more likely as we head into the afternoon. Maybe a thunderstorm. Our temperatures will climb into the upper 80s. Heat index value near 55. Showers and thunderstorms possible this evening. Continued muggy through the overnight. Lows into the lower 70s. July 4th weather on Tuesday. Looks like partly sunny skies. Slight risk of a thunderstorm. Highs into the upper 80s. Dry weather near 90 on Wednesday. Steve Pellettieri, Junior Park, 14.6 WVOX, with the Global Media Station.
Hometown radio for you and yours. So one and only one. 1460 WVOX.
1460 WVOX. Let's return now to the Power Hour. Black Westchester on the radio with Damon Jones and AJ Woodson on 1460 WVOX.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is Damon K. Jones. I'm the publisher of Black Westchester Magazine, and this is the Power Hour. And I'm sitting here with my brother, Dr. Cedrick, while we're talking about his book, The 7 Steps to Prevent Chronic Disease. And he had went through the Power 7. And if you was listening before the commercial, he named them all. But we want to talk about a couple of them while we have time. Brother Doc, man, practice elimination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have the discussion and talk about how important it is to eliminate toxins out of our bodies.
Yes, sir.
You know, not just sitting on a toilet, but also through sweat, um, also through exercise. That's one of them. We're going to get to that. But talk about how important it is to actually go to the bathroom and get that stuff out, because there are some people that don't do number two for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and some people think that's normal.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? If other people are going 3 or 4 days, 2 or 3 days without, having a bowel movement, of
Yeah.
course, people are going to think it's normal,
Right,
right?
right,
So it's
right.
almost like, well, everybody else is doing the same thing as I am, so it must be normal, right? The question is it healthy?
Exactly.
And so you brought up a good point. The second step of the Self Care 7 protocol is called practice elimination.
Mhm.
And that's just what it sounds like. So
Right,
the reason this is so important is because our bodies are constantly taking things in, right? From the foods that we eat
right.
to the products that we apply on our skin
Exactly.
and even the air that we breathe. So you think about just a couple of weeks ago, we had the Canadian wildfires, and there was an air alert, and everybody was wearing their mask back up again and everything like
Exactly.
that. Well, that lets us know that those things that we breathe in, those things that come into our bodies, they have an immediate effect
Right,
on our health. And so when we talk about practicing elimination, it's recognizing that not everything that we are exposed to in our environment, or many times we put on our own selves, is
right.
actually good for us.
Exactly.
It really shouldn't stay in us, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
so we have to understand something, that any substance in the body with very little benefit or value is going to be treated as waste. And the
Right.
body, what it's going to try to do is it's going to try to get rid of it. It's
That's
going to
right.
try to eliminate it.
That's right.
And so the reason that is so important, Brother Damon, is that if the body did not have these mechanisms, these systems in place, right, the body would become a toxic dump.
Right.
It's almost like the body would try to find a way to isolate these things, and sort of like a dump site,
Right.
and just make it sort of like a dumpster, right? Just
Right.
every time you have toxins or
Right.
things, and
Right.
and
Right.
you just put it in there, and that thing would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and
Exactly.
we call it some sort of tumor or something like that.
Well, that's what happens, because it starts moving in around the body, and then according to Dr. Sebi, right? It moves it around the body, and that's what happens. Cancer, tumors,
Mhm.
because the body has to put it somewhere,
Yeah.
and then it hardens up, and then you have a problem.
And then you have a problem. Yeah. So the fortunate thing is this, right? We're very one fearfully and wonderfully made. And I love
Mhm.
saying that because when you think about everything that we go through and
Right.
every toxin that we expose ourselves to,
Right.
right? Some of it unwilling, but much of it willingly, right? From the deodorant you put on yourself, the
Right.
cologne that you spray, and
Right.
everything. We have 7 channels of elimination in the body,
Mhm.
right? And so these 7 channels are quickly, there's the blood, there's the colon, there are the kidneys, you have the liver, you have your lungs, you have your lymph or your lymphatic system, and then you have the skin.
Right.
All of these 7 organs are there for a particular reason,
Right.
and they all help to detoxify the body. So
Mm.
these are responsible for
Right.
getting rid of a lot of the waste that we put in our systems, in ourselves.
Right.
And without them, if any of these systems fail, you're in trouble, right? That's where you are at a greater risk of developing these chronic conditions.
Right.
And that's why we say we have this as the second step in the Self Care 7,
Right.
because it is just that important that people, on your journey to better health and improved and to reduce your risk factors for chronic diseases, you have got to address this. Because remember, when the body discovers toxins or foreign material, it's going to have to use these channels of elimination. It might
Right.
use them all, or it might use one or two or a
Right.
couple of them.
Right.
It's going to have to use them to remove these items, these deleterious compounds from the body. Now, when these systems are working efficiently, you have no problem. You're going to be healthy. Everything's going to be great, right? But when one of them or one or more of them malfunctions, that's where you're in trouble.
Right.
And so, to your point, you mentioned, number two, people are having or not having enough bowel movement. You've got to think about it. If the average person eats 3 to 4 times a day, right? If the average person eats 3 or 4 times a day, and that food is sitting in your stomach, and then the next day comes and you're eating again 3 to 4 times a day, and it's just sitting in your stomach, and the next day comes and you eat 3 or 4. At some point, we've got to look at, it's like the California freeway right there, right? there's
Exactly.
there's a huge lineup right in the back.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so it leads to other things such as, well, are you absorbing the nutrients from what you've eaten? Are you getting enough fiber, right? Because there's such a thing as peristalsis motion, the movement of
Exactly.
food or matter, fecal matter, in that case, along your colon. Well, if these things are happening, well, you're taking time bomb for any of number of diseases, irritable bowel syndrome,
Right.
inflammatory bowel disease. You've got
Exactly.
any number of diseases along your gut that can happen. And so this is why it is so important that we have this conversation and we talk
Right.
about, listen, at the very least, I mean, you've got 7 channels of elimination or 7 organs, but at the very least, there are several things that we can immediately do. For the kidneys, you've got to drink a lot of water.
Exactly.
Make sure you drink water because the kidneys use that and they help filter the blood, and it helps to have a lot of water. For the skin, right? The skin is the largest organ in the body. In fact, you think about your morning routine, right?
Exactly.
You're putting lotion on your
And makeup
right,
and
makeup, lipstick. You're spraying yourself several times a day. Deodorant, all this stuff.
Exactly.
And I like to say this: if you ever take a look at like a deodorant, for example, turn it around and read some of the ingredients.
Tell me about it.
Listen, brother, I am, I'm a healthcare professional, but I don't know what half of these things are, what half of these things do. But I have the sense, they're not that good for
Right,
you,
right,
right?
right,
And so when
right.
you look at all these things, you got to ask yourself, well, if I'm putting them on my skin, which absorbs them,
Exactly.
how do I get rid of them?
Exactly.
And so that's where we start talking about a little bit of physical activity. You've got to sweat it out.
Exactly.
You've got to sweat it out. You've got to poop it out,
Right.
right? Ultimately,
Exactly.
right? And so that's where we talk about the gut. We talk about fiber, right?
Right.
Making sure you have enough fiber in your system. And, we can, it also ties into your stomach acid, the ability to break foods down. Do you have enough digestive enzymes? Do you have
Right.
enough hydrochloric acid? So all of it ties together, and can either lead to the development of any number of chronic conditions
Right.
or to reducing your risk factors so you
Exactly.
don't develop these conditions.
Let's talk about gut health, right? Because when you talk about bowel movement, you're talking about in elimination. We also need to discuss gut health, like how having a healthy gut, how important it is to make sure that your gut is healthy.
Yes, sir. So funny enough, the gut starts in your mouth
Mm,
and ends in your anus,
mm,
right? I want everybody to let that sink in. So from the opening of your mouth, right, that is the lips, to your anus, and I hate to be graphic, but that's
right,
just the
right,
scientific term, right?
exactly.
You don't want me to use the other term,
Right,
but
right,
anus,
exactly.
we're gonna stick with anus. But no, from your mouth to your anus, that's one continuous tube.
Wow.
Okay,
Okay.
so it's one continuous tube. So
Okay.
ideally, right, the way we were designed is, you're going to eat something, and as it goes along your gut, it's going to be digested. It's going to be broken down. It's going to be broken down by chemical digestion, which is your stomach acid. It's going to go along your colon, your small and large intestine. You
Mm,
have a whole bunch of systems there that are going to absorb the nutrients out from the food as well as water from the food. And then what's left is the fecal matter. Ideally, it should get out. So you
right,
should go to the bathroom
right,
and have no problem passing the
right,
waste out, right?
right,
But unfortunately, that's not what typically happens, right?
right,
But when we look at how we were designed, this is exactly what was supposed to happen. So when we're talking about gut health, we have to understand something. The gut, or as some people call it, the gut microbiome, is a whole new world.
right,
Um, I, one analogy I like to use is if you ever go underwater, you discover an ecosystem of
Right.
fish and eels and
Right.
crabs and everything.
Exactly.
And every single creature or animal type in that ecosystem has a function,
Right.
right? And you remove one, the ecosystem may collapse or it may change for the worse. But our gut is an entire world. It's an entire ecosystem. In fact, you're looking at about between 40 to 100 trillion cells
Right.
living in a symbiotic relationship with us.
Yep.
I'll talk more about that.
Yes, yes, we'll be back. We'll be back. And this is Black Westchester, the Power Hour. We're going to pay some bills and give some information. And we'll be back with Dr. Cedrick and the 7 steps to prevent chronic disease.
Amen. Good transition, too.
This VOX.
Hi, my name is Jen Rosmiano, and I'd like to take a moment to tell you about one of my family's funeral homes, Zion Memorial Chapel. Zion Memorial Chapel is Westchester County's only independently owned, exclusive Jewish funeral home, and that makes all
We probably got like 2 more segments,
That's fine.
but like 2 more segments.
So I can, each segment is about how long?
10?
10 minutes? Okay. So I can quickly sum up, promote digestion. What do you want to talk about next?
Nutrition
Okay.
and allow restoration.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll summarize promote digestion in like 2, 3 minutes,
Okay.
and then you'll have a minute or two to
Mhm.
talk about nutrition, and then I'll jump in there.
Right.
Yeah. So we can knock those two out, and then the next one we can knock two out, and I think we should be good.
Right. I mean, we could take 1 minute to talk about exercise. I mean, that's self-explanatory.
I mean that's all I'm gonna say, right?
Right.
That's all I
Get
can
up and
say.
do something, right? Work out 30 minutes a day,
Get
man.
up and move. That's right.
Everything you need in the morning. Local news, traffic, weather, guests, fun conversation, and beer. It's Good Morning Westchester with Dennis and Tommy. Weekday mornings from 6 to 9. Right here on 1460 WVOX.
Let's return now to the Power Hour. Black Westchester on the radio with Damon Jones and AJ Woodson on 1460 WVOX.
Yes, we're back. We're back. The Black Westchester Power Hour, WVOX 1460 AM on your AM dial. And we're still here with my brother, Dr. Cedrick, and we're going to continue this conversation about his book, The 7 Steps to Prevent Chronic Disease. And let's not forget that brother will be in Mount Vernon at the public library on July 8th at 11 a.m. He's going to have his books, and we're going to have another conversation. We'll have another conversation, and if you have any questions, you could definitely come there, and we'll have great conversation about health and wellness and mental clarity. But we want to get back to the steps that he puts in his book. So let's get back to um, digestion, my brother. Let's top that off, and the importance of, if you're just listening, we're talking about the importance of gut health and how important it is.
Yes, sir. And again, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope to see you this Saturday at the Mount Vernon Public Library. Yeah, so Brother Damon, as I was saying, there's this entire ecosystem in our gut. You're looking at between 40 to 100 trillion cells that are living there, a total of about 1,000 different species, right? And so they live in a symbiotic relationship with us, which means they benefit from the foods that we eat.
That's right.
And we benefit from what they do to the foods that we eat.
Right.
So they're able to get free food, but in exchange, they're able to help break down the foods.
Right.
Now, a healthy gut is going to have these microbes helping you
Right.
in any number of
Right.
ways. For
Right.
example, these gut play a significant role in the development of disease or in the maintenance of health. And in fact, we know that they play an important role in nutrition. They can help us if you have good gut bacteria. They
That's
can
right.
actually help us
Right.
absorb nutrients, and actually
Exactly.
some of them can actually make produce vitamins such as vitamin B and vitamin K. They actually help us with our immune system. We actually develop or come in contact with our first microbes when you pass through your mother's birth canal. And
Mm.
so research has shown that babies that come in contact with microbes while in the womb are actually, this early exposure can actually help build adaptive immunity,
Right.
right, which is something that follows you for the rest of your life. We know that the microbiota can affect the brain and its functions, right? So that's where we
Right.
talk about mental
Right.
health and mental clarity. In fact, the gut is often called the second brain, and that's due to the fact that there are many nerve endings
Right.
that are
Right.
leaving that connect the gut to the brain.
That's right.
So a lot of these mood conditions, these mental health issues, right?
Right.
I
Right.
think we would be doing ourselves a great favor by looking at the gut and what we're putting in that gut, right? The types
Right.
of foods that we're
Right.
eating. If you've got, unfortunately, if you've got a kid that's doped up on sugar foods, right?
Right.
Processed sugar and all of this stuff. Well, look at the type of bacteria that are thriving in that environment in your gut, right?
Right.
And what
Right.
sort of hormones are they helping to produce, right?
Right.
And how does that affect your brain? Well, you're more likely to be depressed. You're more likely to have mental issues, and your mental outlook is going to be foggier.
Right.
And so we have to understand that there is a direct correlation or relationship between gut health and mental health. And of course, having a broader diversity of microbes or germs in the gut, healthy germs, can actually be better for your health because these gut will actually compete against more harmful ones
Right.
as far as colonization along your gut. Whether because anything that enters the blood really has to go through the gut. And
Right.
so if you've
Right.
got a bunch
Right.
of mutual symbiotic germs that
Right.
colonize your gut, they won't let some harmful good
Exactly.
bacteria come in and
Exactly.
colonize.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
all of those things are why gut health is so important.
Great, great, great.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
now, nutrition. We got a few more minutes left, so I want to get I want to touch on nutrition and restoration. Um, you know, I haven't seen some vegans, man. People that say they're vegans and they're eating, Doritos, and they say, well, it's not, it's not meat, man. Because and that shows us there's a lack of understanding nutrition and eating nutritional food. Um, how is nutrition important, and what should, real quick, what should people understand about nutrition? And
Great point. Great question, Doc. So, one of the things I want to say is, nutrition is probably the cornerstone of good health.
right,
There's no way about it. Anything else is really a shortcut, and you're not
right,
doing yourself a favor. Now, I do want to say this, when it comes to nutrition and meat and plants and everything, um, we really have to look at how a lot of the food in this country is grown,
right,
right? Because a lot of times things get a bad rap, and it's not. You look at a lot of foods that are genetically processed,
right,
modified, or
right,
have all these pesticides sprayed on them, and then ultimately these foods don't carry as many nutrients as they did 50 years ago. And so
right.
people say, well, it's not healthy. No, it's not that it's not healthy. It's what's been done. It's how it's
Exactly,
been grown
exactly.
and harvested and everything like that. Well, in much the same way, you look at meat, right? A lot of times, a lot of these things have nitrates added onto them, right? To you look at, for example, the typical meat product that you buy at the local shop, right, at the local store, right? These nitrates help preserve the shelf life of these products.
Right,
Now, the problem is this, right? When you start baking it or frying it or whatever, right, they produce something called nitrosamines. Not to get too complicated in there, but a lot of times those things can actually been shown to contribute to chronic diseases, right?
right,
So
right,
diabetes, etc. And so Is the meat to blame? Not really. It's what's being done to it, right? And so, in much the same way, when you look at a lot of the plant products,
Right.
you know, and you look at the fact that 90+% of our corn has been genetically modified. So now you have a lot of people who eat corn, but they may not be able to properly digest it, right? And so
Right.
it's very easy to say, well, I'm not eating corn again, right? It's not that. Well, no, corn itself is a great thing. It's a gift.
Right.
It's wonderful,
Exactly.
but it's how it was processed. It's what's been done to it that now has causes a conflict with our body, with our gut. And so we have to look at food like that and understand what has happened to the food in this country, what has happened to the food manufacturing in this country.
Right.
And ultimately, one of the things something that is very passionate of mine is, we talk a lot about vitamins, but we rarely talk about minerals, right?
Exactly.
And I wish people would understand there are 16 vitamins or so that are essential for health. There are 60 minerals that are essential for health.
Mm.
But unfortunately, the way we grow our food, right, big agri,
Right. Right.
depletes the soils of
Mm.
nutrients.
Mm.
In fact, many a times you have these planes flying over and spraying this stuff.
Right.
Well, that's being absorbed by a lot of these crops.
Right.
And so when you and I eat it, yeah, you're doing your best to eat healthy and eat clean, but no, you're taking in
Right.
these
Right.
pesticides and these
Right.
things, and so you're going to have a lot of people developing, allergies and all these,
Right. Right.
autoimmune issues. And so, but people don't, unfortunately, don't have this conversation and look at it from that perspective. Let's start with the soil. Is it healthy? Are we letting it rest? Right? Are we, putting things that are going to allow the soil to,
Right.
have turnover
Right.
and re-mineralize itself?
Right.
Unfortunately, for a
No.
lot of people, we're not doing that.
No.
And so you now begin to see that there are people that are doing their best to be healthy,
Right.
but even though they're making these changes, they're not getting the results fast enough, particularly because of everything
Everything
else
else.
that we talked
Exactly.
about.
Exactly. Now, brother, restoration.
Yes, sir.
And I think in the picture, I think you got somebody in the bed, man. Like somebody relaxing, right?
Yeah,
I just tell my wife all the time, like you got to get some rest, you got to get some sleep, right?
Mhm.
Shut off your cell phone for about an hour.
Yes, sir.
Reboot your brain.
Mhm.
Talk about restoration, how it's important to allow your body to rest.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, you can actually be laying down to rest, but your mind is on,
Exactly.
right? Your mind, you're thinking about a million different things.
Exactly.
So that's not really resting. What we're talking about is actually shutting down,
Right.
right? I mean, if you leave your phone on for too long, it begins to overheat, right?
Right.
You leave the computer
Exactly.
on for too long, it
Exactly.
starts to hear the fan like turning on.
Exactly.
So we have to understand something. This body is a machine,
That's right.
and you're just living in it.
That's
Okay?
right.
At a certain point, you have got to rest. Now, in this day and age, in this modern day and age, we are not resting enough.
Right.
Now, I didn't say we're not sitting down or we're not laying down enough. I said we're not resting enough
Right.
because of this thing called the cell phone.
That's right.
A lot
That's
of
right.
people are constantly on their phones.
That's
You're
right.
sleeping.
That's
You get a
right.
text message. You wake up. Right?
Exactly.
So you never actually get to rest.
Exactly.
But what I want to say is that we've got to understand that your body can only rebuild itself, right? The healing process takes place when you sleep.
Mm.
That is when the healing process takes place, not when you're laying down.
Right.
When you sleep. So you've got to make sure that you're making time, setting time aside to sleep without any distractions or disturbances, because that's the only way your body's going to rest. Now, of
Right.
course, like I said, you can be laid down, but your mind is still on,
Right,
right? You're
exactly.
thinking about problems, you're thinking about issues.
Exactly.
And so this is where, in terms of restoration, we also talk about, we don't just focus on sleep alone, we also talk about stress.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
People have got to be able to compartmentalize stress factors.
That's
So
right.
there are certain issues that just are out of your control.
Right.
There's nothing you can do.
Exactly. Exactly.
So dwelling on those issues isn't really going to help you. It's just more stress, right?
Right,
increasing
exactly.
Your heart rate, messing up your hormones,
Exactly.
your insulin levels, and everything. So when we talk about restoration, it's about understanding the relationship between dealing with your stressors,
Right.
right? Whether it's money, whether it's job, whether it's a relationship, and understanding that there are certain things that are out of your control. And in that case, leave it in God's hands, right?
Hey, listen, brother.
Nothing you can do.
If it's out of your control, why stress it?
Why stress it? Yeah.
Why stress it? And stress will kill you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Stress not only can it kill you, it will kill you.
Exactly.
It shortens your life. So when you understand these things, right? Certain stresses are good, right? Because stress is actually a normal biological response.
Mm.
What we're talking about is that perpetual stress, that
Exactly.
chronic stress, that long-term stress.
Exactly.
That's what begins to kill you and begins to weaken your immune system and leads to all sorts of chronic diseases.
All right, my brother. Thank you. If y'all want to see Dr. Cedrick, come on out to the Mount Vernon Public Library this Saturday, the 8th at 11 a.m. And we'll probably be live with that on Facebook. So go to blackwestchester.com on Black Westchester on Facebook. And this is Black Westchester, the Power Hour. And the hour is up. And I hope that you learned something today. God bless. Peace out.
God bless. Amen.